Here, and so I'm going to start off with our new reality, and I'm going to talk a little bit in that new reality about our past, our present, and our future. And then I'm going to pivot and talk a little bit deeper about another project in the future that I'm working on. So, a lot of us have been wondering about this at home learning. I was wondering about this at home learning because I wasn't really in the home with the kid or with the parent while they were doing it. So we actually had our staff give this 2-minute video of what at home learning really looks like. So, Antonio, if you'll run that video, please.
I want to show you what some of the teachers are engaging in. So we'll take a look. Here they have it as different weeks. They take attendance virtually. So they'll have a checklist for Spruce High School, and then here it says what class period and your ID number. Then it looks like they've set up a live help with factoring. So here they have the Google Meet to their classroom, and they said they'll meet at 4:30. And so this is for office hours, so for anybody that wants to come in. And here's another worksheet. Now, the interesting thing about this worksheet, and I'll click on this, is that this is an interactive worksheet. So as we go down, we can answer these questions, but what you start to see is that there's a check mark here, which means this is it turned from red to green. So a student gets instant feedback if they're on the right path or not. So this is just one of the apps that they're using. Let's see the teachers. They're using an app called PlayPosit.
I just got off of a Zoom with Mr. Green and Mr. Chavez, and we just want you to know that we're thinking of you, and we really do miss you so much.
And so you see how the video was paused, and over here it's asking, before we get started, type your name and last name and who your algebra teacher is. And so they're doing this to take attendance to see who has actually seen the video.
I'd like for you to try this one now. Find the slope of the line that passes through the points -3, -5, and the point -2, -7.
And you see how the video paused, and up here they're saying what is the slope of the line that passes through these two different points, and then you select and then hit submit. So the video actually gives you time to work out this problem. And so here, that's just another application they use in the district.
So I wanted to show that video is that that's why I'm so proud of our staff, both our teaching staff, but also our support staff that put these tools together. Now, I'm not saying this happens in every classroom at home, but this is the potential that happens, and there's a lot of actual learning going on. Certainly doesn't replace the face-to-face classroom, but that's an example. Now we're going to the slides. Okay, so this is kind of what we're dealing with right now. If you look at the special populations, you look on the left side of there, we have summer school is something that's really important to us in the most immediate future. But all of summer school will happen virtually. As you can see, students with special needs in pre-K to 12 are going to be identified by their teachers, and they're going to get some support. Bilingual and ESL newcomers, we're going to pick them up. Early childhood is going to have a certain number of 16 campuses, and they're going to be using some technology as well. And then in the month of June, we're going to be working on creating accelerated performance. We've identified about 1,200 students that we're going to get caught up, and you see some of the things that we're going to be working on and focusing on in literacy and numeracy. And you see kind of the activities. We're also going to, at the high school level, have reconnection opportunities and also a summer bridge for our P-TECH students, and also dual credit and credit recovery opportunities. So we're not stopping, but everything this summer has to be virtual. There's no way we can do any of this face-to-face, but we wanted to show that that's in our immediate future. So a lot of people have asked about this issues of hotspots and connectivity. When we started this problem, this slide helps identify where the gap was. We had 36,000 households where we had gaps, where there was not connectivity. Now, it may have had multiple students in those households, but you see, because of the board action, the foundation action, and also the 1 million project, we have narrowed that gap. We've actually given out hotspots to every student who has requested it. We told you we would get this done by the end of April, and we have. The delta is about 6,000. That's still what we project. That's actually not 6,000 currently who don't have access. Anyone who's asked for a hotspot has gotten one. But we're projecting that we're going to need another 6,000 to go in this activity through this short term. But let me remind you, the hotspots are a short-term solution. They're not a long-term solution, and our families are doing the best they can. But I really want to thank everyone who stepped up and got it done with this activity. We've also engaged. You guys have helped us an awful lot. The media has been very helpful. Our website, the media outlets, we've gotten communication out to everybody about these opportunities. We've had some very specific targeted approaches with our parents and family advocacy department, a new tool that we have called Let's Talk, and then, of course, our principals and hotlines and all the people that are reaching out on a direct way to stay engaged. That's another part of our immediate future. Our immediate future is graduation. And yes, it was very disappointing that we have to have a virtual graduation. And this is probably the hardest decision I've had to make, including the tornado decisions that we've had this year, because this is a culminating activity for these graduating seniors. But we determined early on, if Plano has to try to have a delayed graduation, they have 3 or 4 high schools they got to worry about. Coppell has 1 high school. We have 37 high schools. We have almost 9,000 students. And so what we have decided to do, as we have communicated with you, we will live stream this ceremonies as originally scheduled. And the district, we will make sure we will provide caps and gowns for all the students. And we're working with our providers so that the costs that they've had, they won't be held accountable. Then we're going to have a special page where we have say something about our seniors, whether it's a family member or a teacher. And then we're going to have messages at all of these virtual graduations from myself, which I can't go to 37 graduations, but now I can. We'll have our board members, and we'll have key leaders, and obviously the principal, and we will have this ceremony, and you'll see another mock-up of how that's an example of a student from Sunset. It just so happened I graduated from Sunset. And then, in addition to that, we're going to have banners and yard signs, banners that we're going to mail to the students so they can display at their homes. There you see Kimball and Thomas Jefferson as an example. And then also we're going to have yard signs that the students can come start picking up the week of May 13th. We know this has been tough on everybody, especially this class. Think about this class. They were born right after 9/11. And now they have to, our TJ seniors go through this year, and now the rest of our seniors go through this year. And it's just an unfortunate situation, but that's kind of where we are. Then also, I'm very excited about this. You've seen and you've covered this, but the ovation for the class of 2020. On Thursday, May the 21st from 7 to 10, we want to have an ovation, just kind of you see for first responders, and we want to have this orchestrated throughout the city, and so that we can give a lot of show of appreciation for our students on this date. So, that's the immediate future. What about the near future? What about August? Some of you have asked me about this. Option A, open, business as usual. Highly doubtful. But we're going to have that plan. That's plan A. Plan B, we stay in the current state. Highly unlikely. I believe that things are going to improve between now and August. Plan C, some kind of blended learning opportunity. I think C is very high likely. However, I think there's going to be C1, C2, C3, C4. We don't really know. A lot of it depends on exactly where the state has us, where the health officials have us, where the governor has us. That will be determined as which version of C we have to actually execute. And so what are going to be the variables? Well, as you can see, safety is the number one variable. So if you see at the slide up here, you see on this one column, you see all of the recommendations that we have to follow from the health officials. And if some of these, the PPE is in place, and you have 150,000 students, then how in the world are you going to execute that? And how are you going to have the supplies available? And when are they going to be delivered? So there are a lot of things we have to worry about. What about the proactive screening? So, and how are you going to keep everything clean? So we have tools for that, but this is one of the considerations. You see transportation. Right now, we can get significant number of students on a bus, not if these requirements are in place. What about all these other activities and rituals that we normally have? At some point, they're going to have to be adjusted. And we think, every health official has told us, there may be periodic closures in the future. So we'll have to plan for that. And we will stay in touch with all the requirements. We're looking at our current policies. We're looking at in guidance from the state and the feds about where we're going to be. So right now, we don't know what we don't know. In 2 weeks, we'll know a little bit better of which version of C we might have to be ready to pivot with. But we will continue planning until we get there. Of course, for our families, we have to be in touch with them. Look at the middle button. This has already made us pivot a little bit. Right now, elementary students require supervision. Some secondary students don't require supervision. So if we had a hybrid opening where there's Mondays and Wednesdays or Tuesdays and Thursdays is one thing. But what if we had all of our elementary schools and we spread them out into multiple buildings so that at least we have that covered for the parents that have to go to work? And most of our parents are hourly workers. And so they have to be on their jobs, and they can't work remotely, and they can't be at home with their children. So we have to take all of these into consideration. So that's kind of where we are with the planning. It's iterative right now. Like I said, in 2 weeks, we'll have a lot more clarity of which version of C we may have to be ready to go. We're ready to go with A, and we're ready to go with B. Which version of C am I going to have? We'll know that as we go down this journey. But now I want to talk about something bigger, something that I'm working on. I've talked to a couple of you about this one, and after I finish this, and I'll open it up for questions. What has become painfully obvious to me and to us is this whole issue of connectivity. Hotspots are a good interim solution. They're not a good long-term solution. And so I told some of you, and I've told the board, that I'm taking this Operation Connectivity on myself as a personal challenge, and I'm going to be focused on this for the next several months until we get a good long-term solution. So what am I talking about here? Well, the what is connectivity for everyone. If you think about, people are connected with water, they're connected with electricity, they're connected with gas, with wastewater, and internet connectivity should also be there. If we have to shut down, and also we've learned a lot of things while we've tried this testing of at-home learning, that we can actually be productive. We can actually do some things to catch our students up who are behind. So that's the what. Why? Because we think it's a social justice issue. Having broadband is not a luxury, it's a necessity. We think we're going to be shut down at points throughout the year. This impacts public education. This actually impacts health. A lot of things can be done through telemedicine if you have the right tools and the right connections to every household. Employment. If you're unemployed right now, how are you going to apply for a job if you don't have internet connectivity? No one's taking applications face to face. And what about you? News and information. How do we get information from our federal, state, local officials to everybody if there's not connectivity? Here's the problem. Dallas is on this list every time we bring it up. Now it's about connectivity. The Fed put this document together, the Federal Reserve Bank, and look, Dallas ranks 6th. Now this is the city. This is not the school district. But you see some of the people, some of the very urban areas that have plight, that don't have resources. There they are, Detroit, Memphis, Cleveland, New Orleans, and we're right there next. Now, Miami's in there. Of course, Miami-Dade County is different than the city of Miami, of inner city Miami. So this is an issue all over the place. We have a list of the 100, and we're number 6. And we're number 1 in the state. And now if you break it down into our district, and then you look at the hot spots, it's the same hot spots on being a food desert and a grocery desert and those kinds of things. And you see the zip codes right there, and most of them are in southern Dallas. You touch a little bit into Brock Bank or Bachman Lake and a little bit into Vickery Meadows, but most of those are in southern Dallas and Pleasant Grove where there is not connectivity. And so this just further states the case as to why we need connectivity. So who's going to be involved with this? So far, nobody's turned me down. As I've gone and approached city officials, county officials, see the education column first. You see everybody said yes in the education column. In the government column, everybody said yes, we want to be part of the solution. On the business column, we've gotten down, and there's a couple of asterisks there. We haven't made full-fledged contact, but we've been in contact with all of those business and leaders. Nonprofits, similarly. No one has said no, everyone has said yes, and we haven't gotten to everybody. And then you have the collective impact between Commit Dallas and the Fed. So that's who. Now, who in the state of Texas? I've had a conversation with the commissioner. He's appointing a committee, and he's asked me to chair that committee. And this is going to be including the entire state of Texas. We have a planning meeting in the next tomorrow, I believe, as to how we launch this. There's the Texas School Alliance. It's the large suburban, mid-urban school districts, the Urban Council of Superintendents. We've already reached to every urban community. We have not officially gone to the legislature and the state of Texas and rural communities, although I have appointments with the leadership of the state this week. They're said yet to be contacted, but they are scheduled. Now, who nationally? Because this is also a federal issue. It is mostly a federal issue. We've already gotten approval from the Council of Great City Schools organization to help lead this charge. At noon, I have to leave here at 11:50 because I have a conference call at noon with the American Association of School Administrators on this topic. And they represent all urban, rural, and suburban districts in the country. We'll need to reach all the state commissioners. That's what the CCSO, the Federal Reserve Bank, the FCC. The FCC is going to be on a call regarding this topic with me this week. The Fed, and then, of course, most importantly, is the federal government. There is going to be another stimulus package, and many times they like to fund shovel-ready projects. And infrastructure is a key one. And I think there's no bigger one than this. Yes, they've taken care of small business. Yes, they've taken care of many families, although they need to do it again. Yes, they've taken care of airlines. And now they need to take care of state governments and local governments, and we need to be part of that package. And so that's who we're going to nationally. So what's the deadline for this project? Well, vision is a dream with a deadline. You got to get something done. You can't just talk about it. So in the next 30 days, we have a local group of chief technology officers that are meeting on a regular basis. We've also coordinating this with the Council of the Great City Schools. We are in the process of putting together a group to do a request for proposal, to have a study done that a technical consultant has to do about how you connect all the towers to make this possible. If you think this is impossible, you've reported on some that are possible. Castleberry, a small district inside of the city limits of Fort Worth, has connected. It cost them $20 million to do connectivity for all their schools through cell towers in all their buildings. They're very tight. Lockhart ISD in Caldwell County in Central Texas has done the same thing. The school district voted for connectivity for everybody. It is a public good. They're as big as southern Dallas. So we know it's possible. We just don't know all the details. And We've also gotten the support of the Boston Consulting Group to be our management consulting firm to lead us down this path. They just signed on last week, so we got that done in these 30 days. What are we going to do in the next 90 days? Well, we need some interim solutions. How do we get school community access? Right now, the hotspots are good. How do we manage that through the fall? And then, of course, the state legislature's meeting in January. The state doesn't have any money either. However, they have a need, and this impacts the entire state. So what about the long term, the next 12 months? Infrastructure needs to be built, but we need to know what the infrastructure needs to look like. And that's what this consulting firm will help us come up with. So I'd love to be able to tell you that by January 1, we would have a long-term solution. I don't know if that's possible, but you know, in Dallas, we do have resources. We have a bond election. We also have a healthy fund balance. And so we're going to take care of this for Dallas. But why don't we take care of this for Texas, Dallas County, Texas, and the whole country, since now this virus has exposed a flaw that impacts everybody. So how are we going to do it? Don't know yet. But we're going to be very public about this. We're going to be very focused. We're going to be very organized. We're going to have a guiding coalition. I'm sure that I will, right now, it's my responsibility because I'm talking, I have no authority. All I have is a big mouth and a bully pulpit, and I'm going to keep talking about this till we get something done. But at some point, we need to set up a governance structure. Who else is going to serve to chair this guiding coalition? We're going to look at all our resources. We may have to reallocate them. We're lucky that we have a reserve, but we also have a fund balance that much of this could fund. And actually, there's also the federal program called E-rate that could actually, if they change some of their rules, could make some adjustments to allow some of these funds to be used for this purpose. We know that it's going to have to be public and private. We know telecommunications companies need to make money, but how can we make this a win-win? And there's going to be multiple jurisdictions. That's why I've reached out to the mayor, the county judge, the city manager for us. And also now we're doing many different other stakeholders. So we're going to relentlessly pursue this until we either get an answer or at least find out why not. And we'll know what it's going to cost. And if there's some other opportunity with the federal government, with the next round of stimulus money, we would certainly want to be at the front of the line. So that concludes my prepared remarks. At this time, I will be glad to open up for any questions on any of the topics that I talk about. Maybe I'll say a couple of things in Spanish for our Spanish language. Lo que les quiero decir a la comunidad es que nosotros estamos trabajando con los alumnos. Nosotros sabemos que en el verano tenemos que tener un programa porque muchos de los alumnos se han fallado un poco y les vamos a ayudar y explicamos eso. Al mismo tiempo tenemos graduaciones que vienen y vamos a ver cómo podemos con ánimo y con cariño traerle un programa que tiene que ser virtual. No vamos a estar juntos en una junta, lo vamos a tener que hacer virtual. También hay muchas cosas que no estamos conectados con el Internet y yo voy a comenzar con un proyecto, ya he comenzado con un proyecto para conectarnos todos en broadband internet access para que tengan la oportunidad que todas las familias en la ciudad, en nuestra ciudad, en el estado, en el condado y en el país tengan oportunidad de participar en el internet. Como todos necesitamos electricidad, todos necesitamos agua, y es una necesidad que es muy importante. Okay, questions, comments, concerns?
Families are ready to get back to work, but they don't know what to do with their children, and many of them rely on this district and its partnership city for recreation centers, camps on your campuses. Is there any plan in place for those families to have some relief in partnership with the city and the school district?
Not yet, but we do have a great partnership with the City of Learning, with the City of Dallas, and Big Thought is one of our partners. Once we're given the green light to actually have students on campus, we will consider that. Our actual learning activities will be virtual, but once we're given permission to do that, we are prepared to engage our partners because we know families need to try to get to work. And but it's not possible for them to go to work. Normally they've made some arrangements for childcare in the summer, but that's been part of it. Even some very prominent people that I know depend on the Y. But if the Y is not open, they don't know what they're going to do with their children. So we're not ready to launch on that yet, but I have a team ready to go once we're given permission.
Está usted mencionando de que fue a pedir ayuda a algunos socios y estas personas accedieron a ayudar al distrito en lo que se necesita. ¿Cuál fue la reacción? Si me puede comentar un poquito.
Bueno, hablamos con los oficiales del gobierno del estado, del condado, de la ciudad y en este momento todos han cooperado con nosotros. Todos entienden que este asunto es muy importante, no nada más para los alumnos, pero para toda la familia. Y entienden que en esta tragedia nos hemos fijado que hay algo más que tenemos que hacer para la comunidad.
Some school districts around the country and in Texas have ended the remote learning early because it's been too difficult. How is Dallas ISD actually doing when it comes to this remote learning? What percentage of students are actually engaged in it?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Lori. Yeah, we're very proud of our teachers. We're asking our teachers to make at least 2 contacts with every student every week. And that's another reason that I didn't really cover that in much detail. But we're not picking up the hot spots and we're not picking up the devices from the students except for the seniors. The seniors, when they come in to get their caps and gowns, will pick up their stuff. But for everybody else, we're letting them stay connected. And while our teachers' responsibilities will end on the last day of school, we have a lot of tools that our kids can connect through the hot spots that they can still be learning over the summer. I know some districts have shut down. We've been very pleasantly surprised how much engagement is still going on. And we're in touch with 98% of our students. So other districts have struggled, some have shut down, some weren't ready. But I'm very pleased that our people had enough stuff in place to make this happen, and we're going to continue to let it happen over the summer.
Can you go into a little bit more detail on how you're going to identify kids who maybe aren't doing well with this distance learning and how you're going to catch them up and how much are they losing? Like, are they losing 6 months, a year in learning doing this?
Well, the part of your question that we won't know for a while is how much did they lose? But you got to assume that if they're the ones that we have fewer connections with, those are the ones that are sliding back further. Now, we don't have to have just the STAR test. Last year, if you're following us, the board approved a new assessment program called with NWEA, Northwest Education Association, where we actually have beginning of the year, middle of the year, end of year assessments. So we're going to look at the kids who were behind in the middle of the year on the last assessment we took, and then we're going to match those up with the kids that we haven't connected with at all, and then those are the ones we're going to start with. And then we already have 3rd, 5th, and 8th graders that are way behind in literacy, and those are the ones we're going after on our CAP program, Creating Accelerated Performance. So we're going to use multi-measures to figure out who's the furthest behind and catch them up first. But we're also leaving up all of our resources and accessible all summer so that the students can go there on their own.
WFAA sent in a question, they're on streaming, and they said, how much do you project operation connectivity to cost?
Well, we don't know that. That's part of the big challenge, and that's why we need this technical consultant to help us. I think for Dallas ISD, it's probably going to cost us somewhere around $20 million, $25 million. If that comes from the feds, great. If not, we have the resources to either ask for it in the bond or take it out of reserve to make it happen. And how quickly that happens, I don't know. But that's our estimate. But then that's one district. You multiply that by there's 16 districts in the county, and then you talk about there's 1,000 districts in the state. So the number is going to be big. We just don't know that, and that's why that consultant needs to help us come up with that number.
$20 million
Yeah, Castleberry would probably be a smaller portion of it. Part of it is we already have a lot of infrastructure in place, and part of it is we'd already have our master plan that we've partially implemented. But this would be to make sure that we have connectivity. Now, there are going to be some tools that have to be bought, some devices. And this is it is probably lowballing it a little bit, but this is just the back of the napkin projection. A consultant would tell us exactly what that cost is, but we're ready to go with it.
Si nos puede mencionar en español cómo van a recuperar los hotspots de los que se van a graduar.
Sí, los que se van a graduar, cuando vienen a recoger el equipo para la graduación, vamos a recoger los hotspots y la computadora en ese momento. Yes, you had a question in the back.
Yeah, it cost Castleberry $20 million and took them 2 years to put their program in place. And it's a very limited number of square miles that it covers. Do you think that perhaps you could start in one of those targeted neighborhoods before rolling out to the whole district? Because they told us they struggled to get those few square miles up in 2 years.
Could you try to repeat?
Yeah, the question was Castleberry started in a small area and they struggled to get started up and it took them a long time to implement. Well, that's what that study will tell us, because right now we have like 13 or 14 campuses that have towers on them. We don't know what the solution is going to be. That's what the technical consultant needs to tell us. But we already have some infrastructure that we already have. Now, but you're right. If we're going to prioritize on the hot spots, the red areas, the zip codes that have the biggest need. And there may be a city facility that also has a cell tower that we could connect to. That's why it's so important that multiple jurisdictions go in this project together and see where there's overlap and support to make it as seamless as possible.
Can you talk specifically about the reason that the need is so great when Dallas ISD has provided hotspots for all of the people who've actually asked for hotspots?
Yeah, this is still a big issue because the hotspots were a great solution for the short term. But the connectivity is not as fast. If you're connected through a hotspot, it's not as fast as if you were connected like everybody else, that most of us that have in our homes. It's faster, and therefore when the students get on and they go to the San Diego Zoo and the streaming is very slow, then they get frustrated and they give up. So the solution that we have is good to get us through this summer and maybe part of the fall, and until we get to some more school community-based opportunities. But the best long-term solution is broadband access all the way. And that would then solve those problems in perpetuity. So that's why you need to have short-term, mid-term, and long-term solutions, and that's why that's the best long-term solution.
Mencionó que hay como 3 fases para el próximo semestre: regresar a la normalidad, regresar en una manera mezclada, como lo estamos haciendo ahorita, y también regresar. ¿Nos puedes contar un poco más de esos planes y de esas 3 diferentes fases?
Sí, tenemos 3 opciones para cómo comenzamos la escuela en agosto. Así como siempre comenzamos, pero nosotros creemos que eso no va a suceder. Comenzar como estamos en este momento, y nosotros también pensamos que eso no va a pasar porque cosas han mejorado. Pero lo que va a pasar es otra versión de esas dos cosas. Pero en este momento no sabemos si vamos a traer todos los estudiantes en los grados primarios para tengan dónde ir, para que los padres tienen que ir al trabajo, tienen alguien que les pueda ayudar, y que los estudiantes en la secundaria se queden en la casa y aprendan como están aprendiendo en este momento. Hay varias cosas que estamos planeando y nosotros todavía no sabemos lo que no sabemos, pero en dos semanas vamos a saber más y en un mes vamos a saber. Tenemos que hacer una decisión en 30 a 45 días cómo vamos a comenzar el año.
Have you taken into consideration your district's mobility rate of its families and the fact that a disproportionate number of them live in multifamily dwellings? So down at the very everybody can have broadband around them, but you have to deal with a different population regarding this. And stop me if I'm wrong on that.
No, you're exactly right. And that's part of why this solution is so imperative. Now, there was E-rate program to get schools, hospitals, and libraries up and get infrastructure. And in Texas, there was House Bill 1880, it was House Bill 1228, I believe, many years ago, that helped set up infrastructure for those same entities. It set up infrastructure, but it did not connect inside the houses. So this solution is going to require even having families to have a device inside their home so they can connect through broadband. So that's why this is even more important to us. Now, if they move from apartment A to apartment B, then how do we manage that transition is going to be important. And we're going to have contingencies about what was not covered and how do we manage that. So that's why this is why it's become such an epiphany for everybody. This is a big deal and we got to have a solution for it.
Out of the 98% of students that the district's engaged with, does the district know about how many of those students are regularly completing their assignments?
I'm sure that the district does know how many students are completing their assignments. We're taking grades. That was one of the reasons we did the grading policy that we did, so we would have some kind of record for it. It also helps us take attendance, and we're having a bona fide instruction. I'm sure someone has those records, and they could probably provide those in some format. So, but that was the reason that we did that, is to have touch points, and also for the student's psyche. A lot of times, out of sight, out of mind, if you don't have regular connection with the students, then, they just think you're not paying attention. And so it's not only for the academic, it's the relationship, but it's also for the psyche of, okay, people are still checking on us, and we're going to finish this. And by the way, if you want to use this over the summer, you can keep it over the summer.
So regarding the 16 campuses for early childhood, any idea how many children we're talking about until people have some clarity on when you say early childhood? Is that pre-K through 3? What is it?
Yeah, it's probably going to be pre-K to 2. And I'm going to have my staff follow up. Robin, you'll follow up with Derek Little. He can give Steve a little more clarity on that particular answer. It is 16. We can't have it everywhere, but the parents do need to know where is this opportunity going to be available as soon as we have ability to have access. Yes, sir.
I was just told this is Teacher Appreciation Week. Is there anything that Dallas can do to, like for as much work they're putting in right now to try to make this a success? What would you say to the teachers who are still at work right now?
Yeah, actually, we sent out a message. I recorded a message for our teachers last week to thank them because check this out, not only are they responsible and taking grades like we just talked about, and they're trying to manage this, but they're also then got their own children to worry about, and how am I going to take care of them while I'm taking care of everybody else's kids? And so, none of us ever expected, and think about this is so universal. This is affecting everyone. And everybody knows a teacher. I mean, you go to church with a teacher, you're married to a teacher, you have a relative who's a teacher, and it impacts so many people. And so our teachers have been warriors, and we really thank them for their efforts because they are taking care of everybody else. And we also need for them to take care of themselves. And how do we onboard them back? We also know that when we come back, we're going to have a hybrid solution because and we have, 11,000 teachers, and how are all of them going to be ready to come back full bore? I think some of them are going to be very ready to come back, but some of them aren't going to be allowed to come back. So how do we manage the classrooms, and how we're going to need all the subs that we have to trying to execute on this plan?
Should the state be thinking about putting teachers in that essential category that can be eligible for childcare?
Yeah, I think so. I think right now it's not in front of us because of the context that everybody was shut down, but someone needs to have a contingency for that as we go forward, as we open up in August. I'm glad you brought that up because that hadn't been one of our discussion points, and that's something we'll need to talk about as child care for our teachers who are actually going to become first responders in the context that we're thinking about in August. Maybe a couple more questions before I get to my next conference call.
Lawyer's question regarding it, but the concept of your theme, your new reality. For the foreseeable future for this school district, whether it be for 2021 up to 2022, a disproportionate number of children of this school district will be getting their education at home. Is that the new reality for the school district?
Well, it's certainly a new reality for the immediate future. And we don't know what we don't know. And that's why, even with some of the decisions that our state officials have made about how we open things back up, everybody has an opinion from one side to the other. But we really don't know. Once we get the data in a couple of weeks, we'll know how much of this will be a reality. Luckily, we're going to also talk to the board at the May briefing about a hybrid solution, about starting a school in the near future where you do 2 days a week bricks and mortar and 3 days a week not. And so we're going to lay out an option like that. That won't be for everybody, but for some families, that'll be a great solution. So we got to look at different things. We know that our past reality is over. And so we just don't know what the new reality is going to be. But in a few months, we'll know what it's like. Will we be back down in a shutdown, or we have to have all these other contingency solutions in place?
Would the connectivity plan be part of the racial equity portion of the bond?
Not necessarily. By the way, on the bond program, we have $41 million for racial equity, but we also have a $25 million set aside for joint projects. And one of our board members has really been pushing that. This could be that $25 million could be part of that joint project that maybe we have with the city or with the county. And so, and back to the racial equity issue. This is an issue of social justice. This is also an issue of racial equity if you look at the maps that I've given you. And this is also an issue of opportunity costs. If those students don't have opportunities because they don't have broadband access, that's another issue that deals square in the face of equity and social justice. One more question, and then I've got that conference call coming up at noon. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And we won't have these unless we have something to give you that's new. So thank you very much for being here.